What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the Pika Pika Papa, and today we're doing something brand new on the channel. It could be one and done, or it could be a brand new series. I'm going to rely on you to let me know in the comments down below what you want, and let me know if there's any improvements, or if I should just shelf the whole thing, because I'll tell you what, a ton of work went into this, so if you all don't find value in it, I'm not going to do it anymore. But what we do on this channel as a whole is we do a lot of data dives, we do a lot of trend analysis, we look at eras, we look at sets, we look at PSA 10, we look at subgroups of PSA 10 cards, we do all of that, but it just kind of goes on and on. There's never any summation, there's never any, hey, this is what we've learned over the last 30 days, and kind of bringing it together as a whole. So I thought, why not try it just once? Let's take all of the information at a really high level and do some quick hitters on everything we've talked about this month and kind of come up with a little state of the hobby. I think that's really cool because we can get really focused, and I'm guilty of it too, we can get really focused on certain segments, either Scarlet and Violet or Sword and Shield alt arts or whatever that might be. And I think having an idea of what's going on just in the hobby in general at a macro level, that's what really matters. Like, we need the hobby to grow organically at a bigger level than just the recent sets and just the biggest chase cards. So that's what we're going to talk about here. And a cool thing is, right off the bat, this XY graph, like, I do this whenever I get a chance, but this month, for example, I was too busy. I had too much other content. I didn't get a chance to walk you through how XY has performed month over month, so I get to give you a quick hitter right now. Now, as you can see, back in October of 2023, I started aggregating the top 20 singles card prices of every set that has a booster box in the XY era. And as you can see, it started off a little soft from October to November to December, but ever since December, XY single card prices have been on this beautiful growth trend. Super safe, super easy growth. We're talking 1-2% month after month, just churning out slow and low gains. That is what I really like to see. It's not driven by FOMO. You don't see these sharp spikes up and spikes down. Like, that is a really cool growth chart right there for the top 20 singles cards in the XY space. And then the booster boxes look a little different, right? I started aggregating those prices back in October, and obviously you can see through August, still very much up. However, it has been flat since March. Now, remember, there is a much smaller population of these booster boxes, and if you look, the aggregate for those 12 booster boxes from XY is all the way at $13,500, so a really high jumping off point. And these boxes are, you know, some of them are really rare, so 1 or 2 sales of an individual box can really push this number up or down. So just because it's been flat doesn't mean that there's nothing wrong with XY booster boxes, I promise you. Matter of fact, I still think some of the best values out there are in the XY booster box space. So we're going to continue to go through this video, but I got to give myself a plug because, like I told you in the beginning, I put a ton of work into this one. So if you find value in it and you like it, let me know in the comments down below. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, we do fun stuff like this all the time, so don't hesitate to do that while you're doing the other things. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about after XY, of course, is Scarlet and Violet. And as I said, we did a deep dive into all of these sets and how they've moved month over month. But this is the big takeaway. Guess what? Paldean Fates, a Fates that I'm super high on, it's actually down. The top 20 singles cards in Paldean Fates is down 8%. Now, we do have to take this with a big grain of salt because it is Scarlet and Violet sets, and these are brand new, and we are going to expect a little bit of the Pokemon pop and flop. But at the top of Paldean Fates, that Charizard, that Bubble Mew, still doing great. So that is really important to me. We're seeing a little bit of softness in the baby shiny space, right? And then Scarlet and Violet base set, Womp Womp, keeps falling down. But at the top of this thing, you got Pokemon 151, which is a set that nobody cares about the restock, right? His cards are just absolutely doing well. Twilight Masquerade is flat, which for a set that's only been out 3 months is absolutely amazing. Temporal Forces, I am a big fan of Temporal Forces, and as you can see, that set is flat month over month. And Obsidian Flames, it looks like it's up 3%, which it is, but a lot of that came from some of the smaller cards down there. So my big takeaways from Scarlet and Violet this month was this. Paldea Evolved is starting to slow down a little bit. I think there's going to be a lot of attention on the new sets that have been announced and will be coming up. I think Twilight Masquerade has taken some of the thunder right now, and that's totally okay. You look at this Magikarp, you look at the Raichu card right here, some of the worst gem rates that you will find in the Scarlet and Violet era, and these are beautiful cards, awesome chase cards, and their prices are actually starting to flatten out here. Again, not a bad thing. Matter of fact, I actually think that's a good thing. And the other thing I wanted to point out too, as I said earlier, Pokemon 151, these are the 2 chase cards, the 2 biggest cards in the set, and if you look at their graph on the far right, guess what? From a pricing perspective, They're doing just fine too. Like, not a lot of people are overly concerned about these restocks that we're starting to see pop up out there in the wild. And the other thing that I wanted to call out, and it's not going to be directly correlated, but the trainer cards from the earlier sets, even the Iono from Paldea Evolved, which is widely playable. Like, everybody loves this card. The artwork is fire. They have really been struggling as of late. That poor Miriam card has just been getting the tail kicked off of it. And when you think about some of these newer sets like Twilight Masquerade, got some really awesome trainers. Probably my favorite trainer lineup in the Scarlet and Violet era so far. We're going to have to keep an eye on that and see if the new sets and if the new excitement around it will be able to prop them up much longer, because so far, even a big set like Paldea Evolved, which has booster boxes for almost $140, right, and an awesome trainer in Iono with crazy playability, awesome artwork, even that card is not immune to this big, you know, it's all the way down from $100 to $65 over the last year. So something to keep in mind when we're looking at some of these Twilight Masquerade and some of these newer sets that are coming out. Next one right here. I'm tired of talking about Greninja. You might be tired of hearing about the Greninja, but I'm going to continue to provide updates on the Greninja, because you can't talk about Scarlet and Violet and not talk about the Greninja. This is the $300 card. Now, we did some research into this the other day. We were actually kind of comparing it to the Moonbryon. Not kind of, we were comparing it to the Moonbryon and how the Moonbryon prices performed versus how this one is performed, and I am in no way, shape, or form, hear me, don't say it in the comments, I am in no way, shape, or form saying this is the next Moonbryon. I am not. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the way this price is performed is totally different than the Moonbryon, because the Moonbryon actually started off and went down before it finally went up, and it actually reached the opening price 1 year later, and this card has just been on fire the first 3 months. And the other thing that I really thought was cool about this is the gem rate is much higher. I talked about poor quality earlier on. Guess what? This Greninja has a really good gem rate at 66%. So far, 1,651 have been sent to PSA, and almost 1,100 have been rewarded a PSA 10 holder. So really cool stuff. Greninja card's hot. We're going to have to wait a couple months and see what happens, but until it dies, we got to talk about it. So here's my Greninja plug in this video. Now, Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield, all kinds of exciting stuff going on in the Sword and Shield space. And as you can see right there, that Sword and Shield top 20 singles, I have been doing the same thing since September of last year that I did with XY. But the interesting call out here is if you look in May and June, those top 20 singles cards went through the freaking roof. They shot off like a rocket ship. All of us felt it. All of us were there for it. And then subsequently, they've started to work their way back down pretty aggressively. Not a big deal. We've talked about it on this channel. It's a normal correction. It's what we all expected to happen, and now we're just going through it. But what's interesting to me is you have some of these cards like that Charizard V alt art, right, from Brilliant Stars. That card is almost flat to where it was exactly 1 year ago, and the PSA 10 population on that card is incredibly high at almost 9,400, and I promise you it is going to be way over 10,000, maybe 11, maybe 12, maybe 13,000. We'll just have to see, but there's going to be a lot more PSA 10s out there, so it's going to be interesting to see as that population increases if it's going to put continued pressure on that raw card price. Same thing for that Lugia, right? Silver Tempest is still in stock at the Pokemon Center for booster boxes, for goodness sakes. Like, I did not think it would still be there, but for whatever reason, it still is. And the Lugia is another super high pop card. Not saying that it won't have the popularity. These alt arts are absolutely awesome, so it could have the popularity. Supply is a very small part of it. Demand is much more important, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. And if you look at that price graph there, it is at least held on to some of that spike, much better than the Charizard V alt art, right? So the Lugia is held on to a little bit more, but again, that population, I think that's going to shoot up even higher than the Charizard. Now, I have the Moonbryon down there for a reason, because I want to provide a counterpoint to what I was just saying. The Moonbryon has 12,500 PSA 10 cards right now, and nobody cares, right? Because it is the primo, it's the best card in the whole Sword and Shield era from the very best set. So even though this is going to end up at 14,000, 15,000 PSA 10s at some point, nobody cares, okay? So remember what I always say, listen, supply is something we talk about. You should be cognizant of it. It should play a role in when you're investing and collecting, but it is not an end-all be-all, and the Moonbryon has absolutely proven that. And then to the right, you've got the Machamp. Now, you might be wondering why I have the Machamp up there. Big reason for that is because if you look in the lower left-hand corner, we had looked at the PSA 10 prices for all of the big chase cards in the Sword and Shield era. So I baselined it back in March, and then I did a look in June. When the prices started to go up for raw cards, I said, okay, Pika fam, let's do a pause, and let's get a data point for where all of these PSA 10 prices are now. And as we expected, it was up 53% from March. Absolutely crazy price growth, super exciting time. However, just as the singles cards came back down, the PSA 10 prices have come down. However, they did not come down as much. The PSA 10s as a whole, the top 20 chase cards from the Sword and Shield era, the PSA 10s held on to their value better than the raw cards, which in my mind is no surprise, but I did think it was a data point worth mentioning. If you look really from June to August, the top 20 singles cards is down about 18.5%, and the top 20 chase cards in PSA 10s is down about 13%. So the top 20 chase cards in PSA 10s held on a little better, and the Machamp right there was the one with the very highest price growth. Even though in August it had fallen a little bit, it was still up 67% since March. It was an awesome card that was flying way under the radar. I mean, this card was a sub $100 raw card earlier in the year, and guess what? It only has a PSA 10 population of 2,800. So that is another one we're going to keep watching. We're going to keep collecting data points on to kind of figure out how the population is going to play, because I love Machamp, you love Machamp, I think that art is fire, and I certainly think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Next era right here, Sun and Moon. Just did a video on this on Friday, and guess what? Sun and Moon singles continue to do what XY singles have done and just be these sneaky growers, right? Now, as you can see, I've got the Gardevoir and the Lovebirds card right there, and what I want to point out on those graphs is in March. March is when we started to see, hey, we're finding some serious support lines for these cards. The overall top 20 singles cards started to price out. They started to flatten out quite a bit, and we said, hey, listen, this might be it. Like, you never know when you're going to hit the bottom, but we certainly saw a lot of really cool cards that were hitting their support lines. And then we started to see something even cooler, which was the prices started to go up, which is fascinating. And that is why I love doing this stuff on the channel, is to take these learnings. Now, the other thing that was really cool too is we did the same benchmark for the Sun and Moon top 20 chase cards from a PSA 10 perspective. And from March to August, they were up. They were only up 14.66% versus Sword and Shield, which was up 33.25%. Remember, in the last slide I showed you, it was up over 50%, and then it came down a certain percentage, but the overall growth is still up 33.25%. So guess what? Sword and Shield outperformed Sun and Moon chase cards in the PSA 10 holders, even though the Sun and Moon chase cards and PSA 10 holders, their populations are paltry. I mean, most of them are under the 800 population mark, and that is another thing where I always say, listen, population matters, but demand is the most important. So really interesting to see how the Sun and Moon era has performed comparatively to the Sword and Shield. Next one right here, I had to just include the booster box prices for Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon like I did on the first slide, because why not have them? So we've already shown you XY, and look at that. Again, really awesome booster box prices. Sword and Shield has started to slow down a little bit, but again, it got really hot there for a bit. So the booster boxes are just starting to settle. Again, no concerns. Long run, it's going to be absolutely fine. If you look where it was in September till now, big gains. Same thing with Sun and Moon. The interesting thing with Sun and Moon is, again, had a much higher jumping off point. If you look in September, the total aggregate value of those 12 Sun and Moon booster boxes was almost $7,500. And now over the last, I don't know, almost 12 months at this point, it has gone all the way up to $8,500. And for me, when I'm looking at Sword and Shield, and the total value of the 12 booster boxes in Sword and Shield right now is sitting at $2,800. Oh my God. Sword and Shield booster boxes, I think, will perform just as well as Sun and Moon. So I use Sun and Moon as kind of a barometer for, hey, listen, how high is high? How high can these Sword and Shield booster boxes get? So this is what I look at, and these are the comparisons, and that's why I wanted to call out the actual jumping off points for these numbers, because I think it's really relevant, and I think it's really important. The next thing we're talking about is grading card volume, and you know I absolutely love to keep an eye on grading trends, because I think overall that is a good sign of market health. It's a good sign of people investing and trying to buy and sell cards, right? You buy cards, you get them graded, you try and sell them at a premium. And these are the videos I do in the beginning of every month. Matter of fact, we're going to have a new look here in just a couple days, and I can't wait to share that with you. But the grading card volume has absolutely rebounded. We went through a long period of time. If you look on the graph on the left, the orange is ball sports. So those are the total number of baseball, basketball, football cards that get graded at PSA. And the blue number is the Pokemon cards or TCG cards that have been graded at PSA. And if you'll look all the way from December of 2022 all the way to December of 2023, they were neck and neck. And then for all of 2024, look what happened. They totally diverged, right? Sports cards went up, TCG went down, and I'm sitting here every month going, oh my God, this is crazy. What's going to happen? You know, I really believe TCG is going to take over sports cards, and it's just not materializing. Well, if you look at last month, Ball Sports went up, TCG went up, and I think now that we have some big fire sets coming out in Pokemon, I think we're going to see this rebound just nicely. So when I look at this, I also try and do these numbers right here. Now, these are the total cards for TCG that have been graded at PSA by month all the way back to January of 2022. I call this out right here because you see this abnormal jump last year in July. Well, guess what? That is because that is when the PSA Grading Center in Japan opened up, and I think there was a bunch of pent-up cards, and I mean, Japan just got flooded with PSA 10s. So what I'm really looking at is I'm looking at the 2022 trends to 2024, because 2023 is totally muddy with that new grading center open. And what we saw here is we saw actually July be materially better in 2024 than it was in 2023. So we should get the August numbers here soon. Once I do, I'll put that video together for you. So I'm hoping August 2024 outperforms August 2022, and I'm gonna start to feel really good about the trend that we're back on. Next one, hey, Shrouded Fable, Pokemon Center exclusively, trainer boxes finally made it. I am so pumped. I got to open mine. The new inserts that they have in there was totally worth the wait. I think it's fantastic, even though Shrouded Fable is far from my favorite set. It might be the one that I dislike the most so far in Scarlet and Violet. But guess what? I still get my Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs, was happy that it finally made it. And then a surprise to me, not one but two brand new Ultra Premium Collection boxes were announced. One of them is that Greninja, which is going to be a GameStop exclusive, and then you have the Terapagos one right there, which guess what? That is going to be available absolutely everywhere. So I don't think we need two new Ultra Premium Collection boxes, but I'm not the one pulling the strings, and we'll just have to see how they perform. None of these are super high on my hit list, but certainly thought they were worth mentioning. And then what is on my hit list, and what you are going to hear me talk about a lot relatively soon, is the Surging Sparks set from Pokemon. I am absolutely in love with this set. I don't even care. I haven't even seen the rest of the cards. If you just show me these three cards plus the Pikachu that's coming out, that's enough for me to be all over this set. And I know that there is just going to be more stunner type cards that are going to be included in this. So I am incredibly excited about this. I'm going to be doing a set review here relatively soon, and we're going to be talking about it. And just know preemptively that I'm all over this. Now look at that Pokemon Center exclusively trainer box. That thing is freaking gorgeous. Like, forget about what's inside. That's going to be an amazing display piece. I'm so excited I can't even talk about it. I can't wait to put that video together for all of you. So the final piece right here, kind of to summarize everything, is I'll tell you right now, I'm feeling really good about the hobby, okay? You think about the Scarlet and Violet era, and yes, we saw some cards and some sets that were kind of regressing a little bit, but that's to be expected. It's a brand new era. When you think about Paldean Fates being the biggest loser month over month here in the Scarlet and Violet space, but still the two chase cards, the Charizard and the Bubble Mew, are still performing really well, I'll take that all frickin' day. I'm fine with Paldea Evolved leveling off a little bit. I'll be fascinated to see what happens with Twilight Masquerade. We got Stellar Crown right around the corner. We got Surging Sparks coming up. Like, I think Scarlet and Violet is going to finish with an absolute bang. Sword and Shield is correcting. Who cares? We knew it was going to happen. Everybody knew that. That's not a big deal. Sword and Shield is destined for greatness no matter what happens in the short run. In the long run, Sword and Shield is going to treat all of us just fine. It's going to be an epic era, I promise. Sun and Moon continuing to bounce from what we saw in March. It is continuing that slow and steady climb, just like XY. It is fascinating. And man, to see these sets, this is such great learnings for me, to see sets and cards that were unloved, and you know, people were all focused on Sword and Shield for so long. Those two sets and eras were just kind of flying under the radar, and now we're starting to see some of these cards grow a little bit, which is really exciting for me as well. You know, I get pumped up when I see strong grading activity. I am just praying and hoping that next week when I get this information, we see that August was just as strong as July was. Fingers crossed, because man, I'm feeling really good if you can't tell. Not sure why we got two new Ultra Premium Collection boxes. You know, I just had to call that out. But even though as unsure as I am about that, I am 100% sure that I'm going to be all in on Surging Sparks. Plus, we got a Team Rocket set coming up later on. Oh my gosh, so many cool things to be pumped up about. So I think for me, the general consensus is Sword and Shield is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Scarlet and Violet is performing better than I expected. Sun and Moon and XY are trending in the right direction. Grading volume is up. We have awesome things on the horizon. I don't know what more you need to be excited about the state of the hobby right now. I'm fired up. I hope you are too. If you made it to the end of this video, I thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, give us a thumbs up. Questions or comments or things we can do better in the series, let me know down below. And also, if you haven't, hit that subscribe button. We do a lot of work here. Those three small things go a long way in helping me out. I hope you have an epic one. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. See you later, everybody. Bye.